This is the best practices video for cleaning stalls. So I'm back at the back of the barn. I'm gonna grab my tools. I'm gonna get a wheelbarrow, grab my favorite pitchfork, I'll get a shovel and a broom, and I'll see you in there. Okay, so we're here, we're gonna clean Nix's stall. There's the first couple things we look at when we start the stall cleaning, and those things are checking his card here to see if there are any notes. There might be something on there that says put extra shavings for a variety of reasons, or less shavings, any kind of variety. Nix doesn't have anything, so we don't have to worry about that. We'll check the door, make sure the door functions appropriately. There should be a stopper here. It should be able to latch. And there should be a stopper on that side of the corner also. So this door works really well. So we'll pop into the stall and we will look for anything sharp on the walls. If they kicked a board and there's a piece of board sticking out, if there's a nail, any kind of things that a horse could hurt themselves on in here, we'll check that out. So the walls look pretty good in this stall. We'll come over here. We'll open the hay hoop for future hay loading. So we'll make sure the hay hoop is functioning really good. And then we'll look at the net and see, are there any holes in this net? This net looks awesome. So there's not. If there were, I would communicate that to my shift lead, and they would write that down or fix it if you have time. So that hay net's great. We'll leave that there because we'll load hay into it later. And then I'll come over here and look at Nix's water. Most horses have 2 buckets of water, and when they are full, they're about 2 inches from the top. So these buckets were already done today. So they are at the right full level. They're clean. They're perfect. If I was coming into this stall in the morning to clean this stall and no one had touched the waters yet, and if they were at this level, I would let my barn staff know. That would mean that the horse hadn't drank any water last night, so that would be concerning. But they were done already, and he had drank water, so that's all good. You see these corners are taped up. These corners can be a little sharp, so we make sure those are taped up. And then we will look at the bottom of the floor, where we're gonna be cleaning. So did the horse poop? Did they pee? Does it look normal, basically? So Nix's poop looks really good. It's got little balls, solid, shiny balls of poop. That looks great. He's got a nice big pee spot, so we know he pooped and peed. He ate. There was no hay in the net. There was no food in the grain pan, and he drank water before we got in here. So all signs look good, so we'll start cleaning. Okay, so now we're gonna clean the stall. Get my wheelbarrow. Put it just so the wheels are outside. We don't want the wheels going inside for biosecurity reasons. I'm going to take the grain pan that's in here, knock out the shavings in the stall, and then set it outside the door. If there was manure or urine in that grain pan, I would bring it to the wash rack on the dirty side and grab a new grain pan and leave it outside the stall. I always start with the manure, it's just how I clean stalls, and shake out the shavings in my pitchfork to leave as many clean shavings in the stall as possible. Got all the manure out. Now I'm gonna get the wet spots with my shovel. So sometimes there are pea spots underneath shavings that look dry. So you can kind of take your broom and just kind of lightly sweep over some of the shavings and just see if there's anything wet underneath there. That looks a little wet. this is a really easy stall. Not all of the stalls you clean are going to be done that quickly or be that obvious. We'll show you an example in a minute, but I got all the manure and the urine out of the stall, and this is how much space it took up in my wheelbarrow. You should probably be able to fit about 3 stalls in one wheelbarrow. If you are stripping a stall, it may be most of the wheelbarrow, but if most of the stalls that you'll clean, if you fill up a wheelbarrow with them, you're probably taking too many clean shavings. So the difference, you can see that last shovelful I got was largely clean shavings. So probably unnecessary to use a shovel for that one, but you can see the difference between these are like cleaner, less wet. This is obviously very saturated with urine. So definitely get everything like this out. If you get some of this color shavings, like, it's not a big deal. Just try to minimize as many dry shavings going in your wheelbarrow as possible. So, because now we will use them to re-shavings the stall, and then we'll add some more if we need to, and then we'll be done with this part. So I'm gonna sweep away. There's some hay up here if you can see it, so I'm just gonna like nudge that back up underneath the hay nut. He'll eat that when he comes back into his stall. If it was nasty, I would scoop it out just like with the paddocks. If it's old, gross, peed on, wet, we would scoop it out and throw it away. But that's good hay, so we'll leave that in here. And then up at this edge, I will sweep about 3 feet back. You don't need to take a tape measure and come in here and find out what 3 feet looks like, but we want a little bit back from the front wall, so that's fine. It's good. It doesn't have to be swept clean. You're not living in here. It's a horse, though. They're gonna take it around anyway, so you don't have to go crazy with it. But about 3 feet from the front wall here, underneath the water buckets too, especially. So we'll sweep these things back. Good, that looks good. And then the rest of it, we want to be about 1 inch of thickness-ish. So again, don't take a tape measure out and try to see how thick your shavings are, but you'll get a good feel for what about 1 inch is. Okay, so that's pretty even. I have shavings where I want them and no shavings where I don't want them. So after cleaning the stall, it seems like we don't actually need to add any shavings to this. We've got 3 feet space in front of the door, 1 inch thickness wall to wall, and everything looks covered, and this is all the clean shavings left after cleaning. So this is an example of a stall where you don't need to add any shavings. So we'll show you an example here where we will need to add some shaving. Okay, so here is an example of a much more nasty stall than Nix's. Echo likes to drink a lot of water, so that means she likes to pee a lot. So you can see already in the stall, there's a lot of urine-soaked shavings. But you can see around the edges there are some dry ones that we're going to try to save. So this is not a to-be-stripped stall, but we're probably going to take out the whole middle section and then sweep what we have left that's dry back into the middle. If there is a case where you're like, I don't know if this shavings is wet enough to take out, just always ask your shift lead. They can always help you make that kind of judgment call. So then in this stall, I used the shovel first because there was a lot that I needed to shovel out when I saw it. And then I went back through and used the pitchfork. And you could see at the end, some of the pitchforkfuls I got had shavings in them too, because those shavings were a little wet. So I just took them out with the pitchfork. You can use a shovel to do, I could have used a shovel to do the manure in this stall, but I wanted to save as many dry shavings as I could, so I decided the manure was in dry shavings largely, so I used a pitchfork. So yeah, it's kind of personal preference, tool-wise and order-wise. That's just the way that I like to do it. Okay, so this stall, you know, had a lot of urine in it, so we're actually going to use something called PDZ that we just sprinkle over the ground. It's totally safe for them, and it just kind of dries up the urine and absorbs the odor largely. So stalls like Echo probably use PDZ every morning because she pees a lot, so it gets nasty. So we've got a little scooper guy in here. Just grab, I don't know, we'll see how much of this I use. I just am gonna sprinkle it over the worst parts of the stall. By worst parts, I mean the wettest parts. So wherever the shavings were that I picked up the most moisture. A good way to tell that is how heavy the shovel is. It may all look the same, but if you pick up a shovelful that is the same amount as a different shovelful and it's like 20 pounds heavier, there's more urine in that shovel. Along the edges of the mats especially is helpful in absorbing odor. Cool. So now I'll leave the shavings over that. Okay. Another thing you'll notice with stalls like this, Echo paces around a lot in her stall. She walks around a lot, so a lot of the shavings are pushed to the outside. So I just swept those in because it was there was probably a good 3 inches of shavings along the edges of this. So now we're a little bit more even the way we want it to be, and I'll go get some shavings and finish the stall up. Okay, so we're just gonna even out these. We're gonna try to put the old shavings where Echo pees the most. So it seems like this spot right here where I put the PDZ earlier is probably the most pee spot. So we'll sweep the older shavings there. That way we will make sure we take out these older shavings tomorrow when we clean our stall, because they will be the wettest ones. And then we'll have clean, new, good ones to sweep in from the edges. So, all right, that part looks pretty good. I'll fill in the rest with new shavings. I'm gonna sweep 1 foot away from this door. Otherwise, we get shavings leaving out the back door and it makes a huge mess outside. Then I'm gonna sweep my 3 feet away from the front. I'm gonna grab these new shavings. You can see this is like just at the edge of the stall. It's not in the stall for biosecurity reasons, and the shovel will also not touch the ground in the stall, also for biosecurity reasons. So it's about 1 inch thick. You know, some places it may be half an inch, some places maybe 2 inches. But overall it's about 1 inch thick. Wall to wall, 1 foot from the door, 3 feet from this door. She's got comfy, nice dry shavings to sleep on tonight. Okay, so once a week we will wash the water buckets for each stall, basically. So this is stall number 7. So if that was my day to wash that stall's water buckets, when I got to this stall, or after I cleaned this stall probably, I would take the dirty water bucket out. You can kind of like hold it up and then unclip it there. This is a full clean water bucket, so I'm not gonna actually do it. But I would take this water bucket and dump it in my dirty shavings wheelbarrow so that the shavings absorb all that dirty water and we don't add to our mud problem. So then I would take these buckets out to the dirty wash rack and set them on the dirty side. Grab 2 clean ones from the clean side. If there's nothing in the clean side, grab them from the back of the barn, hang them up here, and then we'll fill them up when we go back and refill all the waters. When it's not your day to swap out the empty or the dirty buckets to be cleaned, you can grab the net that's right next to your horse's stall and just scoop out any of the hay or debris or anything long as the sides are clean, it should be good to last until the day it gets cleaned. Thanks for watching the best practices videos. If you have any questions, you can talk to your ship leads or your barn staff. See you at the barn.